Hey everyone, Eric here with the Lewis County Scoop. This morning I sat down with Dusty Blue. He is one of the Republican candidates making a run for the Missouri Senate representing District 18. I hope you enjoy the program and you get some questions answered. Thank you.
The following interview was not paid for by the candidate or campaign and is not an endorsement. The views expressed are those of our guest and do not necessarily represent the Lewis County Scoop or our sponsors.
All right, well, hey Dusty, let's start off with some fun questions, maybe a little bit down the conspiracy road, and this is just for fun, but so I want to ask you, do you think Bigfoot is real? Because there was a sighting per se in 1997 over by Palmyra, and I don't know if you've been north of Palmyra, but there's actually a Bigfoot statue out there in the field. So
Yes, I've seen
what's
that.
your thoughts on Bigfoot? Do you think he's real or not?
The sponsor of this Lewis County Scoop podcast is FHC Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing. From heating and air conditioning to plumbing repairs and service calls, FHC helps keep your home or business running right across Northeast Missouri and West Central Illinois. Call Blake today at 573-822-4284. FHC Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing. Sponsor does not control or endorse the views expressed in this program.
I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, I tell you, me and my family, we are definitely outdoorsmen, and we camp a lot. And I've always told my son, keep an eye out for Bigfoot, Sasquatch. You never know. You never
Right.
know. But hey, I do know that Missouri has some bears. Bears have has made their way up into Missouri, and we got a lot of critters out there that weren't there before. I think some mountain lions are here now. So
yeah.
very interesting. I'm not going to rule out a Sasquatch, Eric.
Yep. All
Yeah.
right. Here's a good one. It's become a big topic in the social media world. Did we really land on the moon in 1969? Hey, if we did, and if you think we did, what happened to that cameraman who took the picture of that shuttle leaving the moon?
Bingo. That's right. No, I agree with you. I don't think we did. I don't think we did. The most bizarre part is like, okay, if we did this in the 1960s, why haven't we done it since?
That's the big question everybody asks. Yes.
Yeah, we're 2026. We see Elon Musk shooting rockets into space like daily, and they're returning back. And I mean, it's just it's insane. But yet, we haven't been back to the moon yet. That seems very, very strange. Don't believe it. I think it was some propaganda at the time during those times of what was happening and so forth. But nah,
Right.
I can't get there.
Yep. I like your answer on that one. Here's the third and last one. Is the Earth flat or round?
Okay. Oh man, I am not a flat earther, brother. I'm not
Gotcha.
a flat earther. I'm sorry for any people, any of your watchers that are watching. Like, Dusty, you're wrong on this. They're flat. Like, I'm sorry, I can't get there. The Earth is round. 100% believe that. And it doesn't make sense to me to be on a flat Earth. I'm a pilot, commercial helicopter pilot, and I've flown and been in aircraft most of my adult life, and I can tell you the Earth's round. The Earth's round.
Okay, let's get down to business.
Let's do it.
Dusty Blue, you are one of the Republican candidates for Senate for Missouri's 18th district.
Yeah, I mean, we got to be careful there a little bit because I'm the only conservative Republican running for State Senate District 18, and the reason why I emphasize conservative is because Jeff City Legislature, we've had a supermajority for over 20 years now, but yet we tend to continue to see legislation that is constantly trying to take our rights and our liberties away. We look at our Constitution, the things that don't hold merit being enshrined into our Constitution. One of the most catastrophic things to happen in this state was Amendment 3 in 2024. So I'm a conservative Republican, believe in the conservative values. We have to conserve our Constitution. We have to conserve the people's rights and their liberties. And we can get more into that. But yeah, I am running for State Senate District 18 as the only conservative Republican because both of my opponents, if you look at freedomprinciple.org, one of the conservative scorecards here in Missouri, they've got an F rating. That's not conservative, folks. I just encourage people to go look at that. Their CPAC rating, I believe, is C or a D. listen, we can do better than that. Missourians deserve better than that.
Before we jump into the politics, maybe just let the people up here know
Yeah.
maybe a little bit about your background, where you came
Yeah.
from, where you reside, and how you got to this point.
Yeah. Well, I am from Mexico, Missouri, born and raised right here in the great states. And, I'm not a politician. I've told everyone that across the trail for the past year. I'm the only outsider in this race. I came from abject poverty, Eric. My mom and dad were on forms of welfare throughout my entire childhood. We lived in public housing. Um, but my mom did as best as she could, but I'm not one that came from wealth or status or any of those things. I've worked for everything that I have. I have full faith in my Savior Jesus Christ. I would be nothing without Him, and I certainly wouldn't be where I'm at today without my faith in Christ. And it's only because of His grace that He continues to have upon me. And how I got here is as through my teenage years. I realized that wasn't the life that I wanted for my future family. And I didn't want to struggle financially. I wanted peace.
Right.
I wanted those things in my life. And so I jumped into the construction industry where I started building homes, did concrete work, did roofing work, everything from the roof to the foundation I did. And then a few years later, I joined the United States Army, where I proudly served with the 101st Airborne Division. So shout out to all my fellow comrades out there, my fellow veterans, regardless of what branch you were in. I thank you for your service. And upon my honorable discharge out of there, my wife and I met my wife while I was in there. We got married, and upon my honorable discharge, my wife and we moved back here to our hometown of Mexico. And that's when I decided I wanted to pursue my childhood dream of becoming a professional helicopter pilot. Serving with the 101st Airborne, we were home in the Air Assault, so we did a lot of repelling, and so that really intrigued me when I was going through my time in the service. That I wanted to fly one of these birds, and so when I got out, I pursued that dream. We accomplished that goal, and I flew for a while and full time. For Johnny Rollins out of Kansas City, a lot of traveling, very inconsistent. And so I had a lot of fun. However, my wife and we decided it was time to hang up my dreams for a little while because my son was just a year old. We were doing a lot of traveling, a lot of moving. And so we moved back home to our hometown of Mexico, where we started and began and currently own and operate our own construction company today. So I've been in politics throughout this entire journey. I've been used to have a podcast, talked a lot about politics, local politics, state politics. So I've been heavily involved in the political environment for years, and it all kind of started when I was in the military because I served under Obama. And there was the whole don't ask, don't tell. And at that time, I didn't exactly understand what that was, except the orders that were given to me from my superiors. And so that's kind of what the light bulb went off on just how much we need to understand as the people what is happening around us in the political environment, because we need to be educated. We need to understand what's happening. And so I started getting into it. Spent a lot of time at the Capitol and sitting in on the Senate chambers, going to the House chamber and listening to our legislatures and the debates. It was learned a lot over the years. One of the biggest things that I've learned over the past few years is how our legislature just continues to sell out to these big special interest groups. And, we've got to get it back to the people where it belongs.
First of all, thank you for your service.
Yeah, thank you.
So, have you ever ran for a political office or held a political office before?
No, never held a political office. I did run for school board in 2022, and
Okay.
Small community, Mexico, Missouri. I know you guys, rural community like Lewis County, and pretty much the entire District 18. We're all just these very small communities, and when you run for school board. Normally you get about 300, 350 votes. And I tell you what, that if you get that many votes, you're pretty much in. And, I did run on just common sense. Let's get back to basic education. Let's get politics out of the classroom. We got plummeting math scores and reading scores. You got kids graduating 12th grade with an 8th grade reading level. And so really hit the nail head on with just basic common sense stuff. And man, I was attacked. However, on election day, I pulled 876 votes, if my memory serves me, and they said I still lost by 7 votes. Neither here nor there, but I think the Lord had a plan, and it just wasn't the right timing. I could have challenged it or whatever, but I didn't. I feel pretty confident in our election system here in Mexico, minus a couple precincts that are pretty liberal. But in any case, we did lose that race by 7 votes, they said. So
7 votes. Wow.
7 votes. Yeah.
Okay.
It's another testament to how significant it is for people to get out and vote.
Yes, it is.
Oh my goodness. It's just, we live in America, and, general elections, we have less than 12% of the population that goes out and votes.
Yeah.
Those are staggering numbers, and we have to get them up. So I just encourage everybody to get out and vote August 4th. I hope to earn your vote after this podcast today if you've never heard of me. But yes, make sure you guys go vote August 4th.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hey, so we made a Facebook post announcing this podcast, and we asked our followers to submit some questions for you. So if you don't mind, we're just going to tackle those questions.
Sure.
Billy Joe asked, how do you see Missouri agriculture? How do you plan on fighting for farm families to see they make it to the next generation?
Well, I think first things first, we got to start putting the people first. And so one of the things that's, farming it's a huge industry, if not the largest industry in Missouri. And, we got to start here's the biggest issue that I've seen, is that there's no communication between our legislature and the folks and the very people that we represent. I've went around all of District 18, talked to, I think I've talked to every single county commissioner. There may be a couple out there that I haven't seen yet, but, I've asked them all a few basic questions. And one of those questions is when is the last time you've seen your senator or your state rep? And the vast majority of them, if not all of them, have told me that the only time we've seen them is during an election cycle or when they come into their home county to vote. How are we supposed to represent the very people that elected us if we're not having communication with them?
I agree with that 100%.
And so my background is not farming. I do have a lot of friends. I grew up in a farming town. All of my friends are farmers. I've learned a ton about farming over the years. And I understand they have a lot of struggles, and I've talked to a lot of them about those struggles, and am represented by a big chunk of farmers here in my hometown that are backing us and supporting us. And again, but it comes back to I wouldn't know what the issues were in farming if I didn't have communication with them. Right. So one thing I vowed to all of my county commissioners across the district, central committees, and even the people, listen, we're going to have quarterly meetings with our county commissioners, because I don't know what's happening in those communities. I don't know. I will never understand Lewis County like you folks on the ground in Lewis County. And there's 14 counties. It's a big district. So we have to open up that communication. I want to have quarterly meetings. We're going to do that via Zoom. We'll send out a link. And the idea of that quarterly meeting is to update you on what's happening at the legislature and what are the things that I can work on to help you guys back at home. What are the issues? Because the only reason why I'm running is to represent the people. I can't be bought. I'm not bought and paid for by the special interest groups. I'm not going to be. I'm only running because I know the Lord called me to stand in that gap, because we have been long forgotten and ignored in the Northeast. And I'm running to change that.
Okay. Aaron Hutley.
Yeah.
He says, I believe all high schools should teach driver's education. Can the state fund all driver's education classes in all high schools?
Never been asked that question.
Yeah. When I was a kid, I mean, I don't know, it was required back when I went to high school, which was a long
Mhm.
time ago, but it was actually required. Everybody took driver's ed.
Mhm. Well, I mean, I can't say that I disagree with driver's ed. We'd probably have a lot safer drivers on the street,
Right.
but whether or not that could be funded by the state or mandated by the state for all public high schools, because I mean, we often see what happens with the legislature and the disconnect with the public education system is we get a lot of unfunded mandates, and so I would hate to see that this one become another one of those. But yeah, I don't know a lot about that or if that's an option, but if they want to shoot me over a message on that, I would like to look into that. I've never been asked that question in the almost 13 months we've been running this race, so I appreciate the question, but I don't know that I'm prepared to respond because I think I need to look into that a little bit more. But I'm certainly against unfunded mandates pertaining to the public education system, what we've been seeing lately out of the legislature.
Hmm. Okay. Uh,
Yeah.
Janet Michelle, how can healthcare be reformed to be affordable and accessible? What are your thoughts, Dusty, regarding direct primary care? I want to preface that real quick. So there's kind of a new model up here in Lewis County in Northeast Missouri. There's actually a banner behind me, HealthSpan. It's a membership-based direct primary care, and they are doing exceptionally well.
Mhm.
It bypasses the insurance and
Yep.
deals directly with your primary care. So yeah, what are your thoughts regarding direct primary care?
100%. Yeah. Here's the reality. We live in rural America, and just here in Mexico, our hospital shut down here about 5 years ago, 5+ years ago. And, APRNs are huge in our district, and I fully support the APRNs. Um, and that direct to care, we have one of those exact same facilities here. I think ours is called um, Dr. Fink is his name, but yeah, it's a monthly subscription.
Hmm.
And yes, I think it's a great thing. Are you asking me? I guess the question is it pertaining to what can the state help assist with that, or just am I in favor of it?
Yeah, well, I guess she just said, how can healthcare be reformed to be affordable and accessible?
Okay.
And I think direct primary care is maybe one of those
Hmm.
solutions. But her
Yes.
question was, yeah, how can healthcare be reformed to be affordable and accessible?
Well, I go back to APRNs. Thank you for emphasizing on that. Yeah. So I believe that APRNs need their autonomy because right now a lot of the APRNs throughout the district, throughout the states, is a lot of times their hands are tied because they're paying such significant fees to medical doctors to oversee their
Hmm.
practice, and that creates a huge issue in rural communities across the states. And again, SD 18 is predominantly rural, and so we need to take the cuffs off of these APRNs and give them some freedom, give them the space to actually treat people. Because um, the other thing I would say is, a lot of these things stem back to, of course, Obamacare, right? I think that
Hmm.
entire system needs to be repealed and replaced. And I think with these health span and with these groups that are starting, these doctors that are creating these coalitions across the states, I think it's a great thing. But also at the same time, I think there's room for APRNs that can come in there as well for specialized care. And a lot of the APRNs, um, they practice in different factions of the health community, and I think a combination of both of those would significantly help the rural communities across the state.
Uh, Robert Reed Miller, what
Yeah.
are what are your thoughts, Dusty, on charter schools?
Mhm.
Are you aware of the shortfall on public education dollars coming down on all schools?
Yes, yes, and I think that's a great question. Charter schools are not a factor in Northeast Missouri. We're never going to get a charter school here. Yeah, I think it's kind of a moot point on charter schools. But more importantly, to answer the question pertaining to the shortfall into the public education system, yes, that is significant because again, it goes back to our legislature. They keep putting out these mandates that are unfunded. and expecting these local rural communities to pick up the tab. And we need to look at that and zoom in a little bit further on that and figure out a little better way of handling that. Because in the rural communities across District 18, like I said, I've been to all of them. I've visited with the folks on the ground, and this is a common issue that I'm running into that needs addressed quickly, because our communities are not receiving any additional funds from the state government over the last 5 years, and they certainly don't appear to be getting any in the near future. But yet they're passing mandates out of the legislature that are unfunded, that the rural communities are having to absorb, which they can't. They don't have it. The rural communities don't have these big retail markets like we see in the cities and stuff to make up for those shortfalls. And again, I keep going back to it, and I keep hitting it home every single time. It's like, it's because our legislature in Jefferson City have sold out to the special interest groups. They're not working for us anymore, folks. That's the reality. They're not working for us. They don't come to these communities. They don't talk to us. They don't want us at the Capitol. It's because they're sold out. They have the political aspirations and climbing the political ladders. I'm seeing that with both of my opponents. They've been in the legislature and now they want to come over to the Senate for 8 years. That's not what our founding fathers intended. We need to get back to, I'm all in favor of term limits, and we have those here in the state of Missouri, but I'm in favor of, listen, if you serve 8 years in the legislature, I don't think you should be able to bounce to the other side. I think it's time to go home. That's what our founding fathers intended. Go home, farm, run your businesses. But we've got to start putting the people first and start listening to the people. Stop passing legislation that is a detriment to the rural communities and to communities in general across the state.
Jake Hedges, he asks, what are your thoughts on the current trend of underfunding public schools, which I believe you just touched on that. How do you plan to vote for Amendment 5, which is eliminating the income tax in the state of Missouri?
Yeah. I'm 100% against SB 5, or correction, Amendment 5. Amendment 5 is the Income Tax Reduction Act. And to kind of give you a little bit of background, a little bit of story on what they're actually saying versus what you're going to see on the ballot. You're going to see probably some really tricky language. It's going to be enticing. Vote no, and here's why. The legislature came up with this grand plan to say, let's get rid of the income tax. Now, listen, I want to be clear. I'm in favor of getting rid of the income tax. I'm also in favor of getting rid of real property tax, personal property tax. We're taxed 87 ways to Sunday. But before we can start having that conversation of getting rid of income tax and the rest of these taxes, let's have a real conversation about cutting the budget first. Let's cut our budget. Let's get rid of the waste, fraud, and abuse. And we have plenty of that, especially when we look into the biggest category in spending in the state of Missouri is social services. I digress, but I can get into that later. But coming back to the income tax, we got to cut the budget first. But our legislature doesn't want to have that conversation. They want to give us this bait and switch. They're asking us now on the ballot for Amendment 5, do we want to suspend the Hancock Amendment? The Hancock Amendment was enshrined into our Constitution in 1980. It was an amendment that protected us against future tax increases. So effectively saying that if the state government wants to increase our taxes, they have to go to the ballot first. They have to ask us, and we have to approve it. They want us to suspend that protection for 5 years. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I don't trust the government. I wouldn't give them. I wouldn't trust them to suspend my First Amendment right, my Second Amendment rights. I'm certainly not going to entrust them to suspend the Hancock Amendment, because what we're saying, if we vote that in, well, they can raise taxes on goods and services to whatever number they want with no real goal that's been outlined. So there's a lot of projections out there. Well, it's going to be 30 years before we get rid of it. I would argue that it'll probably never happen, because they have inside of this joint resolution that they passed. It was 173, 174. Inside of that, they're saying that give us 5 years, but there's these revenue triggers. So in order to get rid of the income tax, we have to put taxes on goods and services. Then there's a threshold that has to be made in order to begin phasing out the income tax. And so our state budget, operating budget, is about $13.4 billion. So what they're saying is that first revenue trigger is going to be 20 million over top of that, right? So that it's 20 million. That's going to be that first revenue trigger. After that, it's done on an aggregate. So the following year, it's going to be 40 million. The following year, it just continues. The goalpost keeps getting moved, right?
Right.
But the number one reason why I'm saying no to this is I do not trust government. I will never vote yes to increase taxes, for one. This is something I tell everyone. I will never vote in favor of increasing your taxes, period. Who's this going to hurt the worst? Your retired folks that don't have income tax, that don't get any sort of income tax taken out. It's going to hurt your low income folks. Think about all the services that we have. All of them are fair game. They're going to be able to come in and be taxed on everything from haircuts to lawn mowing to roofing to building homes to healthcare to you name it, a waitress, a waiter. It's all going to be taxed. It's going to be a windfall for the states. And I simply can't get involved. I cannot align with it for the mere fact I don't trust the government. I'm not going to vote yes to suspend our Hancock Amendment, the very protections that protects us against a tyrannical government, right? And the plan that they've put forth just simply doesn't make sense with constantly moving the goalpost. And it's going to be devastating again to our retired folks and to our low income folks. And I live in a community that's 70% at or below the poverty level. It's going to affect us, many folks, countless folks around the states. And I hope it gets voted down. I hope it gets voted down.
I mean, on the surface, it looks great, but that 5-year transition period, we could actually be paying a lot more in taxes.
Double taxed.
Because, I mean, you really are.
Yep. Because there's going to be a time, they're asking us to trust them for 5 years. If this plan doesn't work, it goes back. And I'm like, what? No.
That don't make sense.
No, and yes, it's got buzzwords in it, like we're getting rid of the income tax, and but we're not. Let's have a real conversation. Let's have a real conversation about cutting our budget. That's what we need to start with first. Right now, it's not sustainable. I would argue next year we're going to be operating from over a $2 billion deficit. When I've looked at the numbers, it's just not sustainable where we're at. But no one wants to have that conversation. We want to have special sessions to give out $1.5 billion to the Chiefs Stadium. We want to. I digress. I'll stop there, but we can get into more. So.
Okay, I'm going to ask you. Okay, Dusty. Hey, let's talk about your stance on a couple more amendments. The first one being Amendment 3. Can you explain what that is and what your stance is?
Yeah. So SB 3, it's actually it's going to be on the ballots, I believe. Amendment 3 is going to be on the ballot, I think, November. So what that is pertaining to the old Amendment 3 that was enshrined into our Constitution in 2024, which was the abortion, the transgender surgery on minors. What I'd like to talk about first, before I talk about this amendment that's going to be on the ballot this year.
Okay.
Is how did we get here? Amendment 3 in 2024, that abortion, that atrocity that took place should have never been allowed to happen. That was one of the biggest reasons why I said yes to running for state senate, because I've had enough. And I think the people have too. And prior to Amendment 3 in 2024, there was a group of members, the Missouri Freedom Caucus, that was in the legislature and the state senates. And you guys probably heard a lot about a lot of the things that were happening during that time. But what they were fighting for was initiative petition reform. We all knew that there was a lot of out-of-state money coming in that was trying to push the edit button on our Constitution to enshrine this garbage in there. And so our Freedom Principle Caucus members, they came to the Senate floor and said, all right, nothing is going to get past the Senate until we get initiative petition reform. So initiative petition, IP, is right now in the state of Missouri, it's a simple majority plus one single vote. So if there's an amendment on the ballot, like we have, I believe 4 of them that's going to be on the ballot this year, those amendments, basically the voter turnout is a simple majority plus one single vote. It's very easy to amend our Constitution through citizen initiative petition. So we wanted to make that harder. Myself, along with many other county committees, Republican Central committees across the state, sent letters to Cindy O'Laughlin demanding that she bring up IP reform. She refused to do it. And because of that reason, we didn't have any guardrails or protections or to make it harder to get it for this type of garbage to be passed and enshrined into our Constitution. So what happened? Amendment 3 ended up on the ballots. It passed. It was enshrined into our Constitution because the failures, 100% the failure of these so-called Republicans that we have in Jefferson City and the Republican leadership, they failed to bring up IP reform. So fast forward till now, we have a new Amendment 3 that's going to be on the ballot that is going to rein in the old one and say, listen, we're going to rein in that and we're going to say, okay, we're going to allow for rape, incest, and fetal anomaly. Now, I'm an abolitionist. I don't believe in abortion. Some folks may disagree with that, but again, my faith is in Christ, and the Lord said that all life is a sacred gift from God. I know these are horrendous things. I have a 19-year-old daughter, and I'm not telling people how to vote on this. I'm actually stating and publicly stated, this is a step in the right direction. I will be voting yes on it. It is a step in the right direction, even though I don't believe in exceptions to abortion, because we have to do something to rein in what the atrocity that the Republicans let happen in 2024. So that's a step in the right direction, but we can't stop there. So it should have never happened, and I'm in favor of no abortion, but however, this is the best thing. Now, I also want to mention at this point is that over the last decade, Senator Mike Moon, which recently just endorsed me, Senator Mike Moon has had a bill in the legislature for 10 years now called personhood. Personhood effectively outlines and says that at the moment of conception, that becomes life. That baby is life. And they then have the equal protections as you and I do outside of the womb. But our Republican-led legislature and our so-called pro-life Republicans won't put it on the ballot. And my argument throughout this past year is, why not put personhood right beside Amendment 3 and let the people decide? Let the people decide whether or not Missouri is truly a pro-life state or we semi-pro-life with exceptions. Let the people decide, but our Republican legislature will not put it on the ballot. Senator Mike Moon, along with many others, actual conservatives in the legislature, they have been pushing for this, but unfortunately, the other so-called Republicans, the swamp that we have down there, refuses to put it on the ballot. And I think that's a sad thing to happen, especially when we look at Missouri just 3 years ago, was it had a near total ban on abortion. And we went from that to the most radical to now we're saying, okay, let's allow for exceptions, but they won't put personhood on there. So I think, again, that is devastating to the state of Missouri. I believe that the people of this state, especially District 18 and the folks that I've gotten to know, are extremely conservative people. Not radical, not any of those things, extreme right wing or anything like that. They're just deeply rooted in conservative values. So why not give the people what they deserve? And that's to save every unborn child. Put personhood on the ballot. Let the people decide, do they want exceptions or do they want actual protections for the unborn and truly pro-life? So I'll stop there, but I hope I articulated that well enough. But
Yes.
there's a lot there to unpack.
Yeah, there is.
And a lot of people just don't know, what took place in 2024, because we were getting fed a whole different story from Senate leadership. Cindy O'Laughlin and Caleb Rowden at the time.
All right, Dusty. Hey, let's talk about, because that was one of the questions I think from Jake Hedges. You want to touch on Amendment 4? Explain what it is and your stance on that amendment.
Yeah, absolutely. So Amendment 4, for those of you that don't know what that is citizen initiative reform. So basically, it's a citizen initiative reform. Should have been done back in 2024 or even before that. It should have been done years ago to make it harder to amend our Constitution. Just like I outlined in Amendment 3, is we have a 50%, a simple majority, 50% plus one. We need to make it harder to amend our Constitution, period. Amendment 4, basically, it essentially, it's trying to do that by saying, okay, we no longer need a 50% plus one out of just a popular vote, a simple majority vote, but now they're saying that we want 8 out of the 8 congressional districts to all have a simple majority plus one. So they're effectively saying we just went from one extreme to the next. So this extreme over here was extremely lenient. It's extremely easy to amend our Constitution. And we can look at that from just in the last 8 years under both of my opponents serving in the state legislature as state representatives, Ed Lewis and Greg Sharp, under their tenure in the legislature. This is what's happened. Medical marijuana in 2017, Medicaid Expansion Act in 2020, 2022, we had recreational marijuana, we've had gambling, and then the most catastrophic thing to happen was the Amendment 3. All of those things were enshrined into our Constitution over the last 8 years. Both of my opponents were in the legislature, had the ability, had the authority in the legislature to get IP reform through the legislature, to get it harder, to make it harder to amend our Constitution. I'm in favor of making it harder for our Constitution. I think it's critical. It's imperative that we get that done. But right now, the Amendment 4, what they're articulating, what they're outlining here is saying that we're going to say 8 out of the 8 congressional districts. Well, St. Louis is never going to agree with what's happening in Lewis County, right? They're deeply liberal lunatics in St. Louis. They're never going to agree what's happening in Canton, Missouri, Lewis County, or Mexico, Missouri. They're never going to agree. So what we're effectively saying is that the citizens will never be able to appeal our Constitution, amend our Constitution. But here's where I draw the line, is that our legislature, if they want to push a joint resolution or an amendment into on the ballot for our Constitution, they will stay a simple majority plus one vote. I disagree with that. I think that if we're going to make it harder for the citizens to amend our Constitution, I think we need to have an equal threshold for the legislature. Because what we're going to entice, if this passes, this Amendment 4 passes, what they're promoting is all of our special interests and lobbyists are going to really flood Jefferson City, and they're going to start giving more money to the legislatures during campaign cycles to amend our Constitution. Right now, they're spending millions and sometimes billions of dollars into the state of Missouri to amend our Constitution through the citizen initiative petition. So I was in favor of 5 out of the 8 congressional districts. I think that's a nice balance. That's the majority. We have 8 congressional districts. Let's say we have 5 of those. I think that gives the rural voice back to Missouri, because right now we're being disenfranchised by the major populous counties and districts across the state, like St. Louis, Kansas City, Columbia, Springfield. The liberal communities are basically dictating what goes into our Constitution. And so we need to make it harder. I'm in favor of 5 out of the 8 congressional districts, but I think that same thing should apply to our legislature. I think if we're going to hold the people to a standard, we need to also hold government to a standard. But if you guys notice something throughout this, what I've been telling you guys throughout this podcast is that if we look at Amendment 5 pertaining to the income tax, they want us to suspend the Hancock Amendment. Now they're wanting us to make it impossible for us to amend the Constitution through the citizen initiative. But you notice that we're growing government. We're growing government by, if these were to pass, we're suspending the Hancock Amendment. We're just going to trust them to do whatever they want with our taxes. And now they're asking us to give them the power to now take full control over our Constitution. But initiative petition reform should have been done years ago. I mean, we've had Senate leadership the same for the past almost 8 years now. I mean, it switches out about every 2 years, but most of our members have been predominantly in there over the last several years. This could have been done a long time ago, but they refused to do it. And so Amendment 4, I'm a no on, because I don't want to we need to make it harder to amend our Constitution, but I don't think fundamentally taking the right away from the people is the right answer, and then allowing the legislature to do whatever they want to do. If they want to amend our Constitution, they're going to stay at the simple majority, 50% plus one, but the people won't have that. And I just
Mm.
think we need to have a balance in our legislature. If we're going to do something, make it harder for the people, we also need to make it harder for ourselves, because ultimately what we're fighting here is the swamp. We're fighting these special interest groups that are coming in and buying our legislatures. They're coming in and using our weak citizen initiative petition process in the state of Missouri, coming in and being able to buy whatever they want to put into our Constitution. You know, we have the thickest Constitution than almost all of our surrounding states. We're over 200 pages in our Missouri State Constitution.
Hmm.
There needs to be change. We need to make it harder, but I don't think the right answer is just completely taking the right away from the people.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a couple big questions.
Yeah.
What specifically sets you apart from candidate Greg Sharp?
Yeah, great question. Like I said, Greg's a great guy. He's a personal. I've really gotten to know him over the past year. We've been all over the campaign trail together. Yeah, I've really respected him over the past year. He's a great guy. He's a moderate. What separates him from me is very clear. You just have to look at the voting record over the last 8 years. Greg Sharp voted to increase your taxes. We saw that in 2021 when he voted to increase the gas tax, which I recently called on Governor Kehoe to suspend the gas tax. That's almost 30 cents a gallon back into the pockets of people right now. I know it's not a lot, but it's certainly better than what we're seeing right now. He voted to increase that tax. He voted for things like SB 3, which was the big Chief Stadium giveaway. He voted for SB 82, which was the big water giveaway, that opened the door to allow these big data centers, these predatory data centers, to come into the state of Missouri. Him and Ed Lewis both voted for SB 82 and SB 4. I encourage each and every one of you guys to go look up those bills. Those were utility giveaways, especially SB 4 with respect to cost of work in progress, right? So they're effectively saying that we're, as the ratepayer, are going to be paying for these new generation plants for these data centers while they're constructing them, way before a single watt of power is ever produced. And that they voted for this stuff. So I can keep going as far as the look at their voting records. I'm never going to vote to increase your taxes. I'm the only candidate in the race that never has voted to increase your taxes, nor will I. I'm a conservative. I believe in conserving our Constitution, bringing the power back to the people where it belongs, and not selling out to the special interest groups. We have to open up that communication with our communities, and I have vowed to do that by first day one, taking off the door of the hinges of our state, of my office at the Capitol. We're going to open it back up to the people where it belongs. I'm probably going to get in a lot of trouble for that, but we're going to take the door off, because I don't want to see special interest roaming the halls, looming the halls. I want to see the people. I want to have conversations with them. I want to better our district. We have to start thinking about what are our kids and our grandkids going to be inheriting from us 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now. Right now, we have a budget that's bloated, all in part by my opponent, Greg Sharp. He's been in office for 8 years. Just in the last 5, our budget has doubled. He has voted on those things, on our budgets, in our appropriations. He hasn't effectively tried to cut our budget. He has voted multiple times to increase your taxes. The list goes on, and I just encourage folks to go look at their voting records, to go look at the conservative scorecards, and you'll see for yourself. Greg Sharp's a moderate. He's a great guy, friendly guy. I would go to dinner with him. Great guy. Would I vote for him? Absolutely not. Because I don't think he's putting the people first. I don't think he has the backbone that it takes to stand up against the swamp. And that's exactly what we have in Jefferson City, is a swamp. They're sold out. They don't care about the people. They tell us what we want to hear during election cycles. And we've got to break the chains on that and break that trend and start putting the people first.
Okay.
Yeah.
Same question. What
Yeah.
specifically set you apart from Republican candidate Ed Lewis?
Yeah, so if you look at both of their voting records, they're effectively going to pretty much be aligned across the board. With respect to Greg Sharp did vote against the income tax, and I commended him on that. That he did stand up and say no because we saw what happened to Kansas. We know how this story ends. So he did stand up and do that. So with the exception of that, they pretty much have the same voting record across the board. And I just encourage folks to look at that. And I've met some Greg Sharp and some Ed Lewis voters, supporters across the district. And I've challenged them because they say, "Oh yeah, he's a great guy. I've known him for years." And yeah, he's been our legislature for 6 years. Greg Sharp's been our legislature. He's been our state rep for 8 years. And Ed Lewis was a school teacher. He taught my kids. And I'm like, yeah, but do you know anything about him? The answer is generally no. I was once told recently by a person that, my daughter has met Ed Lewis 30 times, and every time she meets him, he's a different person
Hmm.
because he doesn't remember her, and his answers generally change when he's asked the question because he's going around saying what people want to hear, what typical political correct politicians do, instead of actually listening to what the actual needs and desires are from the people. And that's what I concentrate on doing, is listening to the issues. What are the issues driving them to the polls? How can I learn more about my district? Because I'm not out here claiming to know all about District 18. I'm never going to know the communities like the people and the commissioners that you guys elect, working with them, understanding them. Quite frankly, they have, again, going back, they just have the same voting records. They're standing for the same thing. They have both sold out. Both have voted to increase your taxes. Both have made no change in getting rid of the waste, fraud, and abuse in our budget. Again, they both have opened the doors, the floodgates to these data centers coming into the state of Missouri. I think we need to repeal SB 82 and SB 4. So I think those are great questions, but ultimately, at the end of the day, I think a vote for Greg Sharp and a vote for Ed Lewis, whichever one you vote for, you're effectively going to get the same result. I'm the only outsider in this race. I'm the only one that's going to stand up for the people, and I think that's been proven over the past year. We're seeing that in the polls because we're winning in the polls. I don't think they've been released to the public yet, but I know they're coming. And so are the attacks, and Ed Lewis is great at that. So we're looking forward to the attacks from Ed Lewis. So and Greg Sharp, I'm sure eventually, right? It's politics. So
it's politics, right?
Yeah.
Well, Dusty, appreciate you coming on. If you would just give one last pitch, why Lewis County should vote for you.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for bringing me on the show today. I had a great time. Completely off the cuff. Everything I do is unscripted. It's just from my heart. There's 3 things that I see that's missing in Jefferson City. Is the first thing that they're missing is God. I'm a wholeheartedly first things first is my faith in Christ. I'm not doing this for any other reason than to be obedient to what the Lord has called me to do and to represent the people. We need to bring God back into the building. We have legislatures that no longer vote from conviction or principle, but rather their highest bidder. Who gave them the most money throughout the election cycle. And I encourage folks to go look at the MEC records of where Ed Lewis and Greg Sharp are getting their money from. And I think it'll tell you a lot on where their loyalties lie. Second, we got to get back to our Constitution. Our Constitution, I don't think most of them read. Because how many bills have came across that have been struck down that go against the Constitution, that are conflicting with the Constitution? We need legislatures that are going to adhere to our Constitution and to our founding fathers and what they envisioned for our country. Article 1, Section 1 of the Missouri State Constitution is very clear, is that all the power that's derived to the government comes from we the people, and we need to get back to that. The third thing, does any piece of legislation coming across the Senate floor, is it going to take away or potentially rob the people of their rights and their liberties? I'm going to be against that 100% of the time, because we have to, longest living constitution in the world. 250th anniversary of the United States is this year. And what an exciting time to be alive. But the rights and the liberties shall not be infringed. And that's not just a Second Amendment. That's all of our constitutional rights, our God-given rights. And so I have promised everybody those three things, is that I will vote no on anything that's going to expand things like eminent domain. It's going to take away the rights and liberties of the people. Does it come in conflict with the Bible, what the Word of God says? And so those are the three things. I just encourage people to reach out to me anytime. I'm an open book. I'm transparent. Shoot me a message. I'd love to connect with you guys. Make sure you guys go to our website to learn more about us. And if you feel like if you feel led to get involved into our campaign, want to volunteer, or would like to sign up, please go to our website to do that. Or if you would like to donate to our campaign, we appreciate any and all donations. Go to dustyblueformo.com. And make sure you follow our page at Dusty Blue for State Senate or Dusty Blue. But at the end of the day, I thank you guys for your time. Eric, I thank you for all that you're continuing to do there in Lewis County. I've been to Lewis County several times and have talked with many folks there. I feel like I got a lot of support out of Lewis County, and it's such a great community. All of our communities have been awesome. It's just been such an honor and a blessing to really travel across the district and get to know the people. It's truly been humbling, to say the least, over the past year. So I thank you guys for tuning into this podcast. And again, if you guys need anything, you guys let me know. Love to talk with you.
Okay, Dusty, thanks for coming on. Maybe
Yes,
we'll have
sir.
you back on here in the future when it gets closer to election time.
We have a lot of events coming up. So I'd like to encourage folks to follow our pages, to keep up with our events, to come meet me in person, to have a conversation with me. I'd love to do that. So yeah.
All right, there you have it, Lewis County. Dusty Blue, Republican, one of the Republican candidates for Senate for District 18. Thanks, Dusty.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for watching this Lewis County Scoop podcast. This interview was not paid for by the candidate or the candidate's campaign, and it should not be considered a political advertisement or endorsement. Our sponsors do not control the questions, guests, topics, or opinions expressed in this program. The views expressed by our guest are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Lewis County Scoop or our sponsors. This interview is provided for informational purposes only, so voters can hear directly from candidates and make their own decisions. For more local interviews, news, and community coverage, visit lewiscountyscoop.com. The sponsor of this Lewis County Scoop podcast is FHC Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing. From heating and air conditioning to plumbing repairs and service calls, FHC helps keep your home or business running right across Northeast Missouri and West Central Illinois. Call Blake today at 573-822-4284. FHC Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing. Sponsor does not control or endorse the views expressed in this program.